All right, guys, what's up? Welcome to the Sonic Experience. Today I'm gonna be talking about, how to listen and things to do to actually get a really good mix. Because sometimes people dive in way too fast and not pay attention to what really needs to be paid attention to. So, with anything when it comes to music, it is based off of feel, and you get the feeling by being able to perceive sound. So, what is fundamental is really understanding the sound and how to actually understand what you're hearing. So, like every sound has its own frequency response. Every key, every note has its own feeling. That's why certain people play certain instruments to get a certain feel and a certain articulation of how you want to express that. And as an engineer, your job is to capture that as well as enhance that vision and make that vision come true. So to be able to do that, you have to understand your source material. You have to understand it, what the audio is saying. You have to understand what you're using. So one thing that's very important is understanding the information that you have at your that's present. What you're working on. If it's a project that you got loaded inside of DAW like Pro Tools, Logic. Pro Tools currently, so I'll just talk about that. And before you even dive really deep into the mix, again, you're listening and hearing. If you don't understand what you're listening to, then you will waste a lot of time mixing. You will probably learn all these techniques that you use. You learn from all these gurus on the internet, people who are really qualified and know what they're talking about. But a lot of times they may have experience using their setup. And if you have no experience really with your setup, if you're using a certain pair of headphones, if you're using a certain monitors like the NS10s or different, KRKs. So you have to understand your material. Some of the material could actually be just the room itself. If you have an untreated room, but you have speakers in your room, you have reflections that you're dealing with. You're dealing with a lot of times if you're on budgeted speakers, you're dealing with or budgeted headphones as well. They're not really flat, and no monitor is really flat, but the closer you get to better quality monitors, the less you'll have of resonances. And in certain rooms, if they're not treated, you're going to have more resonant buildup. So what you may be hearing in your headphones or in your monitors may not actually be what you may hear in others as much. So if you're mixing in a room with a lot of resonance and you have these speakers that already boost certain frequencies higher, it's going to be harder for you to actually hear the content that you're listening for. And the way to circumvent this is by understanding your equipment and your gear. And then once you understand your equipment and your gear, then you will be able to make better and more informed decisions. The way to make more informed decisions is to understand the frequency response of your headphones, as well as understanding the frequency response of your monitors. And then the more you just mix, the more you record, the more you'll be able to pay attention and notice what works in your room. But it's understanding the fundamentals of the material that you have at hand. So this way, if your speakers have a 3 dB bass bump because of just the system that it has a ported system, and it's giving you more low end than you necessarily need in the sub information, you don't have to boost as much of bass in your mix because you're aware of that. You understand the material that you're using, and if it's a bass that's already like pounding, you can use frequency analyzers. So you will want to know your equipment, so this way you can make educated and tailored decisions. So that's one thing that's very important to creating a very good mix, is understanding your equipment, understanding audio material. And one thing I advise people to do is also to use sites that help them ear train, because you may be a good ear, like you might have good natural ears and you got the feeling right, but sometimes to just create better mixes, you want to understand how to listen. And the ways to improve your listening is listening to frequency generators, and then using the different pitches that they have. I actually use Sound Gym right now. I didn't use it for a while. I was just like, I heard of the company, but it's actually a way you can listen to different compression levels, EQ, as well as just volume and gain difference. And that is one thing that helps as well. I do live sound as well as studio work. As you guys can see, I'm in a studio, and just work in different environments and different things, and understanding your system will just help improve you as an engineer. So I hope this information was very useful to you, and you can run with it and help yourself self-improve as an engineer. Either you're recording, mixing, or doing live sound. Most important thing you can do as an engineer is to know how to listen and know what you're listening to and how to manipulate that stuff to create great sounds. So another thing is for engineers that's very important is knowing your weapons and knowing your tools, like I was mentioning earlier. And every engineer has their different set of tools that they like to use. Some people like using NS10. Some people like using Genelex 1030s, I believe. Some people like using Rockets. Some people like using just all different type of monitors. And it's very important that if you go to studios or if you do some reviews online or if you go to Guitar Center, sometimes just check out different things, try out different headphones. Just learn whatever you have and understand how to use what you have. And that just goes down to not just equipment and gear, like choose your weapons and choose them wisely, because some people have different things. Some people have hi-fi systems, some people have more neutral systems where even a great mix when you know will sound clear across everything, but sometimes some monitors are too hi-fi to where I feel like bad things still sound good in them. So you want to make sure you're making decisions that are aligned with your budget as well as aligned with the goal in sight. And I think the most important thing is learning these fundamentals, and the most fundamental thing for an engineer is learning how to listen and hear. It will just skyrocket you much faster in the whole process. And sometimes it's not the most exciting thing to do, but it's the most important thing. And last thing I would say that I think will help, if you guys compare your monitors with other monitors and see like look at the actual graphs, take time to understand them, learn them. And if you're getting killer mixes now, if you you know just understand your speakers more in terms of frequency response, your microphones, the things that you're recording through, their frequency response, you could achieve a sound. Because some of us have recording studios or work out of recording studios where certain things are just set up and you just constantly use that gear. But you know, if you work with an artist a couple amount of times, you might, I constantly have to do this to their vocals. You might understand why, depending on the microphone frequency response. If that microphone has more of a response to bass frequencies and that person has more bass frequencies, why not use a microphone that might be more mid and higher frequency responsive than something lower, because you're getting too much. You're going to get enough anyways. Just try different things out. But again, I want to give you this information. Know your gear, know your equipment, know the frequency response, because that will help you go a long way. So I just wanted to thank you guys for coming through, sitting through the Sonic Experience, enjoying your time here, and hope you learned something. If you have any more questions, leave a note in the comments. If there's anything that you want me to expand upon, I will. If there's a topic that you want me to talk about, let me know, and I'll get to it as well. I'm trying to create more content here for you guys, as well as just help educate and give people information that you're not generally seeing on the internet, like understanding your equipment, your software, and the basic fundamentals of audio, which is listening and hearing. Peace.